Hi, this is Gary with Aldan American. Today I've got my buddy James Birdwell, his 1972 Ford Grand Torino Sport. It's a really pretty cool car, but one of the things that he was complaining about was he lowered it a little too much in the front by cutting coils. And we were talking and I said, so let's do some coilovers. We'll make the front ride height adjustable. We'll get the car up a little bit more from where it was, make the car a nicer driving car. So follow along, see how we do the installation. We're going to install our single adjustable kit on the 72 Grand Torino. So the knob on the bottom is a compression knob. So whatever the knob says at the 12 o'clock position is where it's at. So right now it's at the #1 position. We also have put a flat on the top of the knob. So depending on where it's at on the car, you can reach underneath and feel the flat so you know where it's at for your adjustment point. Our rear shock is a rebound adjustable. So this knob, when you turn it counterclockwise, that is the softest position. As you turn the knob clockwise, that'll increase the dampening or the firmness of the shock. So the kit also includes upper clevis adapter. So the clevis adapter goes on the top of the shock because the original shock has a stem mount, and by using this, we can bolt it in place just like the factory. The kit includes new hardware for the front. Also in the rear, we have a side post adapter that fits on the lower, so it replaces your original lower mounting hardware. I'm also installing our thrust bearing kit. So this is a roller bearing, and the roller bearings are going to go on the spring seat between the spring seat and the spring, and this makes it a lot easier to make adjustments when you're changing your ride height. I'm also installing our optional ALD 39 reinforcing plates. So this plate goes between your T-bar and your lower control arm, and it offers a greater surface area to spread the load from the T-bar to your lower arm. So now I'm going to get ready to start assembling my shock. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thrust bearings. I'm going to apply a little bit of the red grease here. And you always want to grease the thrust bearings. It is a bearing material, so it's not plated, so it will rust if you don't put a little bit of grease on it. So now I'm going to take my greased thrust bearings and I'm going to install it on the shock. So when we assemble the shock, there's a little bit of anti-seize has been put on below the spring seat. But what I like to do before assembling and putting the shock together is I like to put a little bit more anti-seize above the thread. The one thing I always like to state is it's not frosting a cake. You don't have to put a lot of anti-seize on. So about this much is a good amount to put on. So now I'm going to take my upper bushing loose, the gold washer, and the top bushing. We need to do that so we can assemble it in the car. The final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spring and I'm going to set it on top of the shock like that. I want my spring seat down towards the bottom, and then I'm going to install it in the car. I've now assembled the front shock. I'm now going to take and put my spring at 0 preload. So right now the spring is loose on the spring seat. So I'm going to run my spring seat up with the suspension at full droop so that there's no movement or rocking on the spring. And at this point, I'm going to consider that 0 preload. And so what I'm going to do is measure my threads that are exposed here. And at this point, I can see I have approximately 3/4 of an inch of threads exposed. So what I want to do is run my spring seat up 1 inch as my starting point for setting my ride height. And so my measurement will be 1 3/4 inches from here to the bottom of the spring seat. As you can see, this 72 Gran Torino is a pretty simple installation. The back is literally a remove and replace all of the stock hardware, and we supply new hardware for the rear. The front, you have to drill the front lower control arm, holes out to 3/8 of an inch, but otherwise the front is very, very easy. Something that could be easily accomplished in an afternoon in your driveway, wrenching it home.
I've been driving the car now for about a few months now, put a couple thousand miles on it, and it's very enjoyable, and that car's phenomenal.
For more information about Aldan American products, check us out at aldanamerican.com.